up? Welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Sports Podcast. As always, your host Don here with my boy Albert. What's up, my man? You ready to rock?
What up, brother? Hope you had a good holidays. Let's talk some sports, baby. Let's get it.
Let's get to it. So, as you know, with our podcast, we like to always start off with the rewind. Let's discuss what happened in the previous NFL week. In this particular case, that's NFL Week 16. So, without further ado, let's start talking about some of the key matchups, and none bigger than probably the NFC East matchup between the Eagles and Cowboys. We talked about it. You mentioned that maybe a few weeks ago that you hope that this matchup kind of, led into something epic, something that, the success from both teams were, electric. Unfortunately, with the injury to Jalen Hurts, it kind of took away some of that spotlight from the game that shined. But nevertheless, the game didn't disappoint. Gardner Minshew, we knew that he had the nuts to kind of keep the Eagles a little bit close and keep it interesting. And then that's certainly what happened, right? Eagles, Cowboys, 40-34. Cowboys ultimately winning in kind of a back and forth game. Even though they had control of the game, but it was close pretty much, throughout the duration of the game. What did you see from that game in terms of maybe pros, cons, or highs or lows from either team? What did you see from that game?
Man, I like it, man. I like what I see from both teams. Eagles were able to put points even with the backup. Devontae Smith was able to get going. One thing I would like to say is the Cowboys defense. I hope they can tighten things up for that's what they need. That's always their kind of what they're a little shaky on going forward, and they pride themselves on their defense the whole season. But giving up 34 points, it'll happen week to week. It's always up and down, but the Cowboys pulled one out. I like what they did, and just got to get hot at the right time. We always talk about that, getting hot at the right time. Taking down a divisional opponent is huge for morale going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about it. Two of the key things that I look for, at least for my team. If you don't know, I'm a huge Cowboys fan, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you spin on it, how you look at it. But two things that I wanted to look for in this matchup, even without Jalen Hurts, is one, how is that going to play, right? You're still going to play that, that daunted Eagles defense. They have success at multiple levels in that defense, whether it's the pass rush or the secondary. But Dak, he certainly had a good game. 27 for 35, about 350 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He threw his typical, Dak interception in the first half of the game, I think first quarter. But he settled down and he got the job done. But secondly, that's kind of the good I took from it. The bad, obviously the defense, right? And more specifically, the pass rush.
Yeah.
That's something that I've been kind of monitoring closely in the last few weeks, in which Eagles defense or Eagles offensive line certainly get it. They're, if not the best, they're top 5 for sure.
Really good.
But a team like the Cowboys, bro, that prides themselves on defense and that pass rush, which is supposed to be their strength, 0 sacks in the game. 0 sacks in the game, and certainly that's what led to Gardner Minshew being able to have that time to be able to step into the pocket and kind of navigate through, all of his options throughout the game.
Yeah.
So that's something as a Cowboys fan or, just an outside observer, you're definitely going to want to monitor to see, hey, can, Dan Quinn dial up something to get to the quarterback? Eagles, obviously, they have a good old line, but guess what? They're in a division. They're certainly going to be in the playoffs. There's a decent chance that the Cowboys might play again in Philly in the playoffs. That's the number 1 seed for the Eagles, number 5 for the Cowboys. What are you going to do? What can you dial up Dan Quinn to get Micah activated, get him, free him up, get, DeMarcus Lawrence and them boys, get them, at least get some quarterback hurries.
And this is Dan Quinn's showcase for his head coaching job, because this is what people remember. Going into the playoffs, he'll be a top 3 probably candidate going into this offseason as a head coach for teams that are looking for a head coach. And this is a showcase. People remember playoffs, and hopefully he can put something special together for a good run.
Right. So for obvious reasons, and it was a big game itself, if not the big game. That was my biggest takeaway, watching the Cowboys and Eagles to see what, materialized from that. What about you, man? What was your biggest game that you watched, or biggest takeaway, I guess, from a game perspective of Week 16?
It wasn't the biggest hype game, but I think the Jaguars kind of just putting away the Jets. It was a Thursday night game. Jets with Zach Wilson, man. Zach Wilson is no good at all. But I just take away, I don't know if the Jags will sneak into the playoffs or not, but I think going forward into next year, they finished the season strong enough for me to be convinced that the Jags will be a favorite in their division going forward. They're going to be a problem. They got a good offense. Doug Peterson will square away the offense going forward. They got good weapons. Trevor Lawrence is ascending. I like what they're doing to end the season. No one expected them to be like a playoff contender, but for them to get hot and trend the right way towards the end of the season, they didn't beat the best team, but it's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good defense. It was a good defense.
And another team like that, it's the Commanders. They have tons of good pieces. Their D line with Chase Young. They have great receivers. They just need to find a quarterback. I like the Commanders, what they're doing. I don't know if Rivera will be there next year. I hope he is, but they got all the good pieces. A lot of people say that every year. They got a good D line and stuff like that. And the running game will be that's what they pride themselves on, is the running game. And unfortunately, one of the biggest Niners, who has a great run defense. But I like what the pieces that Washington has. And another takeaway is probably the Panthers, man. After punting the season, it seemed like firing the coach and trading Wayne McCaffrey. They have an identity, which is just running the ball, playing good defense, and just sticking to what they know best and kind of just plugging away. And we'll see what the future holds for them. But just two little like low key teams like that, I kept my eye on, and I like what I saw from those two teams.
Yeah, absolutely. The Panthers have been a nasty team. That, like you just mentioned, they certainly have identified their identity, running the ball, great defense. Tough blow. J.C. Horn, obviously, I think he's done for the year. They've lost, I think, two of their top corners are gone now for the season, I believe. So it's going to be an uphill battle. I know they have a tough matchup. We'll talk about that later against Tampa Bay. I think the winner of that game might win the division pretty much, depending on how the Saints, just depending on how the last two games go. But it's a huge playoff implication game. So let's pull back to the Jaguars, right? Obviously, short week. They took care of business. It wasn't 100% pretty, but they got the job done on a short week against a great defense. I believe the game was still in New York. Trevor Lawrence, are you 100% sold? Let's take away the fantasy aspect from a pure NFL quarterback standpoint. Are you 100% on board on the record saying, I make Trevor Lawrence a believer now?
Yeah, 100%. I think so. He's showed enough, especially in a Doug Peterson offense, or just a legit offense. Urban Meyer, they can't really. With Clan Show, we talked about it last year. Just him having a second year going into next year with the Doug Peterson offense, what he did for the Eagles. And he has all the tools you can ever want in a quarterback. He's cerebral. He's a good leader. That's especially what I took away from this. You could see he's got a little more swag. They do a little sideline shots, and he's hyping up his team on the sidelines. He just has that moxie about him that you need in a quarterback, what you want in a quarterback. And I mean, it's hard to pull any negatives away from Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he was one of the most hyped quarterbacks in the past 10, 15 years. I don't know if he'll ever live up to the Andrew Luck, Dan Marino type of hype that he got, or Peyton Manning type of hype. But I mean, it's all you want in a 2022 quarterback that's just run and pass. It can slice up defenses. I'm a believer.
Right. And you know how I'm feeling about my boy T. Law. I'm just glad it all worked out. But so let's pivot. Let's pivot off of that. Before we get to the coaching carousel or coaching hot seats, let's talk about fantasy spotlights. Any guys that stood out that balled, and you were like, maybe they weren't supposed to ball, or maybe they were supposed to ball, and they backed it up.
Yeah, a couple guys. My boy George Kittle. Purdy seems like he loves his tight end.
That's his bestie.
That's his specialty, man. He feeds tight ends, especially in Iowa State. He was feeding. I think his name's Holler or something like that. He fed him a lot. He led his team in touchdowns. And then Kenneth Walker coming back from an injury. Maybe some people were a little bit down on him, but he just produced, and that's all you want from a top 3 fantasy back, a rookie fantasy back. And Devontae Smith too, baller, skinny. I wasn't the biggest believer coming out of college in him. He had all the accolades. He was just, I think he won the Heisman, right? Maybe not.
I'm not sure.
But him producing with Minshew and you couldn't ask for more out of a wide receiver too. I mean, he perfect complement to AJ Brown, who's just an alpha. Devontae Smith is producing, and he's not hiding in the shadows. Someone you got to respect.
Yeah, absolutely. I was relatively high on Devontae Smith, but obviously a lot of people, understandably so, were kind of reluctant to be on that. I mean, you have slim receivers that have success, but like I mean, you have to be a special talent to like actually have.
Rare.
And Devontae Smith, like you said, he's doing his thing, and as slim as he is, he's staying healthy. AJ Brown, obviously number one, but he continues to be banged up. He's banged up right now.
With his body type, you like a lot of people expect elite speed. That's what I was looking for with Devontae, like Deshaun Jackson or Marquise Goodwin, who kind of explodes every now and then. He's not that burner, but he produces, which is rare for his body type.
You definitely get that separation. So a couple of guys for me, your boy, who you've been trying to move, who I've inquired about. Who's your boy?
TJ, Mr. Hockenson.
TJ Hockenson, baby.
Come on now.
TJ Hockenson, he went off. Him and JJ combined for 240 yards, 3 touchdowns, with 2 of them coming from your boy TJ. 25 fucking catches from both of them. 25 catches, 3 touchdowns, 240 yards between the both of them. And it was a healthy split. It wasn't mostly JJ. It was, Hockenson definitely got his work in. So definitely a type of game that, if you're holding TJ Hockenson in a dynasty league like yourself, definitely a game that you want to, hit him up. Hit him up, even if you're not in the league. Hit him up.
The only thing I'm scared of is hopefully they don't look for a wide receiver 2 early in the draft. That would be kind of that would hurt a little bit. But,
and it'd be interesting to see. I mean, Irv Smith is going to be back obviously next year. He's still under contract. Maybe they trade him. I don't know, but yeah, that can definitely take away. But I'm gonna go to the Buffalo Bills backfield. One of the biggest things, or probably one of the biggest weakness in terms of like how they will have success in the playoffs is, can they run the ball, right? We know Josh Allen has no problem with going back and throwing it, chucking it for 40 times a game. Diggs is going to do his thing. They got Gabe Davis or all the shit that he may or may not give, but he does his thing. Isaiah McKenzie, he has his role. But can they run the ball? James Cook, Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary just seems like, it's only been 1 year last year, but seems like he just gets up for fucking fantasy playoff time because Singletary and Cook combined for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. They completely went off, and the yards per carry was something crazy, like 8 or 9 yards per carry. Each of them only carried the ball about 10 to 12 times. So great game great game. I believe they played the Bears. That's another conversation that we'll have in terms of head coaching. So let's transition into that, right? Let's start off with the Raiders, who have not switched coaches, but a lot of people on the outside definitely think that they should they should switch coaches. Obviously, there's some financial obligations that they still have, some commitment, right? That may be why they might not want to move the needle on a Josh McDaniels unless they get some help like they did with the previous coach in terms of outside things that can get him out.
Mark Davis had a little phone call. Hey, help me out here.
I'll let you start it off in terms of we'll work both of them, right? Derek Carr was benched. Josh McDaniels still there. Derek Carr still there officially. Definitely some rumors that he might be traded. What are your thoughts on all things Raiders? Raiders right now.
Man, I get why the Raiders made the move with the financial commitment and everything. They don't want him to hurt, but they're not officially limited for the playoffs. That is a rare move for someone to bench a perennial starter for the past. It's like Eli Manning got benched, right? And broke his starting streak. And that was weird, but the wheels were falling off a little bit and they were desperate. It wasn't a pretty season for Carr, but I get that. But the shocking thing was them saying he's a distraction and you got to send him home. That is unprecedented. That is weird. It is very clown showy. It is. It's just not something you see. It's not like he killed someone. There's not these allegations of outside, But man, that is weird, man. They dealt with a situation like that with Ruggs, and they didn't hide anybody. Carr led that team under his allegations with Gruden being gone. He was the face of the franchise last year, speaking to the media after the Ruggs and Gruden, and to treat him like that. I don't know if Carr recommended he be sent home, but I know he's talked about retiring if he's not a Raider. And I hope if he has a competitive bone in his body that he sticks it to them and wants to continue elsewhere because I don't see it continuing with the Raiders. That is the sole purpose. He got set. I think he's going to be the scapegoat for Josh McDaniels keeping his job. I don't see Josh McDaniels getting fired. He has, at least not this year. Next year, maybe. I think he's got 4 or 5 years on his contract. But
right,
man, they had high hopes, and to end it like this, and it's not even like they have like a round two, a high quality or a high talented backup. They have Jarrett Stidham, who God knows what he will do. What's your thoughts on the Raiders? Because I'm not high on what they're doing, but I get it from an on-field thing. But outside of that, it's very, very, very weird, bro.
Right. I'm very shocked. I'm very shocked by the Derek Carr thing because the Raiders have always been so much. And we know that NFL was in the entertainment business, but the Raiders and Cowboys have very much so been, about entertainment as well as it is about production on the field. So you take away Derek Carr, who's, as mediocre as he's been, good to mediocre as he's been, he's widely loved within the fan base, right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Raider fans love him. They praise him. He says and does a lot of the right things. Yeah, his production maybe isn't there quite. He has his games where he flashes where he's like, okay, maybe he could be that guy. Maybe a change of scenery would help him. But that kind of really shocked me. It was for a guy that's given so much to this franchise and has not brought any negativity from on the field, off the field.
You don't see that.
I mean, this guy's been there before Josh Jacobs, and Jacobs has already been like, pretty much fuck this team. He's like, fuck this team. I'm tired of waiting. It's not even when you take the snippet from his interview, it wasn't even about the contract. It was just like, I'm tired of this shit. And you could tell like he's over it. I'm sure he's like, I'm sure like it's all through the locker room.
Yeah, and they traded for his best friend Devontae Adams, who didn't come cheap. It was not free. It wasn't just like, bring him on board. You had to trade. You had to give him a high contract. And I don't know. My boy's a Raider fan, Johnny. If you're listening, a little shout out here. He retweeted something. So Derek Carr wasn't the problem, but he probably isn't the solution. Which I like that. And I don't think he is a solution.
Yeah, that's deep, Johnny.
Yeah. I don't think he was the problem. He definitely wasn't the problem, but it's not the solution. And it was just a weird move that you don't do 2 weeks in or 2 weeks out from. It's just.
Yeah. You let him finish it. You owe him that much respect.
Exactly.
I think at least.
And to send him home, that's just gross.
Yeah. Let's get into. All right. So obviously Nathaniel Hackett, same division. Probably higher expectations than even the Raiders, right? Yeah. And didn't achieve shit, right? Raiders are, I believe, they're 6-9. The Broncos are 4-11. They've been absolutely dog shit. Nathaniel Hackett has been on the hot seat for pretty much since like week 5 or so, something like that. We know they've lost some weapons in Javonte Williams. The whole ordeal with Melvin Gordon and that whole situation, right? But however, they're 32nd. They spend the draft capital to get Russell Wilson, and only to follow up to that to be dead last, 32nd in the league in points per game at 15.5 points per game. Now the defense has done all right. I think the defense is about 4th or 5th in terms of points per game, but the offense has been dog shit. You can't trade for a guy like Russell Wilson. And that's his MO. He's supposed to be offensive minded, and they're the last in the league. So he should have been gone yesterday. I don't think anybody disagrees with the firing there. It's more why didn't they do it sooner?
Yeah. I've seen that he was supposed to last the season, but this game against the Rams was an embarrassment, and they had to let him go after the fights. And he lost the locker room, and they were fighting with each other. They were fighting with other teams after the game.
It's a fucking circus.
I know. That was a circus show, and they could not have that go on any further. So it didn't look good for Hackett. But the owners for the Broncos are the complete opposite of the Raiders. They don't care about money. They will cut ties as soon as it doesn't work. It's going to be interesting what they do with Russell Wilson because big financial commitment, but they can't really move on from him. But Hackett, see you later, man. The NFL head coaching job is not for you.
So who do you think potentially could take this job here? And
I think they'll swing for the fences and get someone like Jim Harbaugh. I mean, if he's interested, we'll see how he ends his career or ends this year with Michigan. Harbaugh would be, I think, a great fit with the Broncos. Give them identity. They have a defense in place. I don't know how it would work. Well, I don't, man. It's gonna inheriting Russell Wilson's a tough job for a lot of coaches because I think Russell
Yeah.
Wilson is not good anymore. But another player or another coach is Quinn, your boy.
Yep.
I think they interviewed him last year. He could be a potential fit. I know he's probably high on their list last year, but those two guys stick out. And even give their interview to their DC now, Evero. He's has their defense playing at a good level right now, and we'll see. Okay. We'll see what they hand it off to.
Cool. So I put up let's move on, but I put up a poll. Brandon Staley, really quick. What do you think? Brandon Staley has the Chargers obviously trending in the right direction. They're 9-6. Do you think that he keeps his job if they do not win a game?
They don't want to get in playoffs. I think they will keep him. They're kind of like the Raiders, where they don't want to spend extra money if they don't have to. I think he's safe. Unless it's just like a clown show and last game and they get blown out and they start fighting each other. Then maybe their hands will be forced. But unfortunately, I'm a pro Charger team personnel. I love the personnel. I don't like everything else outside of that. And pro jerseys. I love their jerseys. But one of the best.
There you go. Powder blue.
Yes, sir. They'll keep them, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. I think they will keep him. I think they'll at least give him another year. I think next year is when we'll start having those talks where he's entering the season with this talent on this team. He's got to win at least a playoff game.
Yeah, unless Sean Payton forces just I love the Chargers and I need this job, then maybe something weird might happen. But if it's not something high powerful like that, then he'll keep it.
Right. So let's wrap it up with look ahead for NFL week 17. Yes, we got some good we have some. I think if you look at the schedule, you look on paper, you see obviously just from on paper star power. Obviously, the Bills and Bengals are the number one game in terms of just enjoying the game.
Yeah.
But in terms of just the impact, playoff implications, there's some ugly teams playing that means a lot, right? For example, we talked about Panthers played Tampa Bay, huge playoff. I mean, the Panthers could be the NFC. They could be the NFC champs. My Cowboys could be certainly playing the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Fucking ridiculous. But that's a huge game. Another huge game, we have the Saints, which will have draft implications and playoff implications. Saints play the Eagles. As you know, the Eagles made the trade with the Saints. Saints moved up, and the Eagles, acquired their first round pick, which at first it looked like a top 5 pick earlier in the season. Right now, it's sitting at 10 overall. But yeah, it's that's an interesting dynamic. Obviously, the Saints need to win out for them to keep hopes alive. And then the Eagles. The Eagles are certainly number 1. The Cowboys are number 2 in that division, number 5 overall. But the Cowboys, if the Eagles were to lose the last 2 games, then if the Cowboys went out, then they would be the number 1 seed with a tiebreaker. So yeah, just some interesting games. What game stands out to you most from week 17?
Man.
Before we get into the bets,
Vikings Packers. I'll leave some of that for the bets. Packers is America's team right now. I feel like a lot of people are rooting for them. They're trending the right way. A lot of people will lean towards them. I'll tell you what I'll lean going forward. And a game I was looking forward to early in the schedule, Niners Raiders. It doesn't have the same as it did, unfortunately. But just from a rivalry standpoint, where I live, Northern California, lots of Raiders fans, lots of Niner fans. It's unfortunate, but hopefully
it's the Jeff Stidham game now.
Yeah, hopefully there's some juice. Yeah, hopefully some juice. And then the Jaguars Texans. Jaguars aren't really playing for anything right now. They're waiting for the Week 17 game against the Titans. Both Titans and Jaguars don't have much to play for this week, I believe.
Right.
They could lose. Either one of them could lose, one of them could win. Doesn't matter, but. They got focused on week 17. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not really looking at what they do. I mean, I'm not really paying attention to the score. I'm just seeing how they'll play this week out more because they're going to treat it like a preseason, maybe sit and start questions will be weird for those 2 games or those 2 teams in their respective matchups. But that's what I got eyes on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like I said, there's some ugly games out there that unfortunately have some huge playoff implications, as we mentioned. So let's start off with let's transition finally into our bets that we like, and let's start off with the America's team lately, which is the Green Bay Packers, right? The rise and fall and the get back up of Aaron Rodgers. Put up a poll and saying, hey, will this impact his legacy if he were to win out and make the playoffs? And a lot of people, I think the majority said that we still need him to win a trophy to really move the needle. But I think at the back of our mind, it's still really impressive, right, for him to not give up. There was some talk maybe a few weeks ago that he should just shut it down. And all he's done is say, hey, I'm going to continue to play out. We still have a chance. Mm-hmm. Now they're in a position where they need some help, but essentially, unofficially, they could control their own destiny because the help they need is it's very minimal, very minimal help. So if they win the last two games, they'll pretty much be in. So right now the line is at Packers -3.5 against the Vikings, in which we talked about the Eagles and we talked about them being the number one seed. This is a game that I'm riding with the Packers. Ooh. I'm riding the wave. Yes, I'm riding the wave. I'm riding with the Packers. I think that the Vikings defense has been dog shit. I think the Packers defense has been great, especially defending the pass. There's some issues with the Packers' ability to stop the run, which we know is going to eventually happen. There was a meme out there or a tweet, I forgot what it was, but it's like, damn, Packers doing all I think was you that showed me or somebody showed me Packers doing all this shit just to get knocked out by the Niners again.
The first round. I know that. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's a terrible matchup, but let's talk about just the path there, right?
Yeah.
I think the defense is better. I think the offense is better. I think Jaire Alexander, these boys on the Packers secondary, I think they're up for the task. Rasul Douglas, I think they're up for the task to defend, Justin Jefferson. Justin's going to get his, right? But I think that Jaire Alexander will be able to do enough. And the key thing is that I think that the Vikings have been struggling running the ball as well. They haven't been able to run the ball as efficiently as they were in the first half of the season. Kirk Cousins has been great, but again, I believe this is a primetime game. If not, I'm not sure. I think it's a primetime game. If not, I just feel like buying the half point, taking the Packers -3 for how much this means to that Packers team. It's going to be bad weather. It's going to be in Green Bay. It's going to be bad weather. How much is riding on this game? I'm rocking with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers from what they showed me in the last few weeks. So I can't.
I'm going the other way. I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people are just riding the Packers wave, and I'm just gonna when everyone's bobbing, I'm gonna weave. And the Vikings have been lucky. They squeaked by a lot of tight games. They kind of got lucky on a lot of their wins. And if this was like, I don't know, I would bet against the Vikings in other scenarios, but I just like them against Rodgers. And the last two wins Green Bay has had is over the Bears and then the Rams. And they beat the Dolphins last week by 6. But if it was 2.5, maybe I would take the Green Bay. But 3.5, give me the extra little point. I'm taking the Vikings. It's just more intuition. Kirko, Justin Jefferson. I love what they're showing me. I don't like them going forward in the playoffs at all, but just in this matchup, it's just I think the Packers aren't as good as people think they are right now. They're a little puffed up too much, I think.
Right. Yeah. It just, I guess it's just hard for me to see the Vikings really getting up completely. I think they realize that they're going to be the number 2 seed regardless. The Eagles have the tiebreaker over the Vikings. But yeah, let's move on here. I like some dogs this week too. I like the Steelers. Steelers are plus 6.5 points right now against the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, we know Lamar Jackson, he might be back. That's something, the news that we can definitely monitor. But I just think so. I read a stat actually earlier today that since 2005, in this matchup, the underdog that is given more than 3 points is 18-2. This is another one of those games why I picked the Giants, plus whatever it was, to get 4.5 against the Commanders. When you have these tight, divisional games down the wire, week 16, both teams are kind of banged up. I just think that a touchdown is way too much. Obviously, if you're any better knows that if you're going to get 6.5, you want to buy half the point, get the +7. I like the Steelers +7. I even would look at Steelers money line in this game. The Steelers, I think it's like plus 250, something like that, plus 250, 260. probably
Yeah.
depending on the book, anywhere between 230 to 300. I definitely like Steelers +7, buying half the point. The Colts, I think, a lot of, we talked about this in our betting segments, is that a lot of, lines are kind of overreaction or underreaction. Colts look like dog shit. They look like they mailed it in. I just think that playing a team like the Giants, who obviously they have a lot to play for, I just think they're at 5. I think they're 6.5 or 6 points. I like the Colts a good deal there. I think that's a good spot for them to kind of not bounce back. They're not playing for anything, but to show some heart, play hard for Jeff Saturday. I think Giants will win. I think it'll be less than 6 points.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Giants over the Colts too. Or no, you like the points for the Colts, but I don't know. I kind of Colts. I think they mailed it in. I don't think they give a shit about Jeff Saturday. And they're
this
starting.
Is spicy. This is good. This is good. We got a little.
This is good for us. This is good for us. This is good for us. The Colts quarterback, what's his name? Nick Foles, man. That was nasty work. I'll take the Giants over the Colts. I think they'll cover too.
Right.
And I'll take the Texans over the Jags. Jags, I think they'll kind of sleepwalk a bit. Texans always play the Jags sturdy and really competitive past few years in spots like this. And Texans are got a little steam to them. And Lovie Smith doesn't give a shit about draft position. I'm pretty sure they might have it kind of locked down. But Lovie Smith, they got some little umph to them. And I'll take the points for the Texans. And then my boy Mike White, a little resurgence for the Jets. I'll take the Jets, and Garrett Wilson finds going to get some good looks with a new quarterback over the Seahawks. So
okay, yeah, perfect. So let me end it with 2 under points. I love me some under New England and Dolphins. Game is in New England. It's going to be a cold day. Dolphins offense, obviously, they've been struggling. They played some, good defenses, and Buffalo, Niners. But they've been struggling. They haven't been. Obviously, we know, Tua's not going to be playing. Doesn't seem like it, right? He's not going to be pass protocol. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the starter. I know that he's competent enough, but he hasn't played in a few weeks. New England, nobody's just going to come in New England and ball out, right? Bill Belichick, his offenses could be called stale because of, Patricia being able to run plays. I don't know why he's calling plays, but he is. But the defense has always been formidable. I think all these boys will have a field day against Teddy Bridgewater. I think he'll be on his back all game. So the spread is still kind of iffy for me, but just because of how important this game is for both teams. But I like the under here. I think I like the under 42, buying the point. I think it's at 41. 42 is a key number in terms of over and under. And then finally, I like the under on the Browns and Commanders game. Two great defenses, 2 kind of middle of the pack, kind of struggling offenses. Deshaun Watson is back, but we certainly see that he's rusty. He's going to need the full offseason. They got to get completely back. But yeah, I like under Browns, Commanders 40.5, under New England and Dolphins 42 points. I'm going to put out a personal, an additional video in terms of player props, or maybe I'll do it in a post format. But look out for my props. I'll post that between now and Sunday. Did you have any other bets that you want to share before we end this thing here, buddy?
This will probably go out. This is pretty obvious. Zeke, anytime touchdown tonight. I think he'll get a touchdown for sure. Josh Jacobs going against my boys. I'll take the under. I think it's around 70.5 on the rushing yards. I'm definitely taking the under on Jacobs. And we'll do Alan Lazard. I think he'll get a long look as long as reception prop is like 19.5 or 20.5. Rodgers will be slinging it, but I'll still take my Vikings. But he'll get a catch like that.
Perfect. Well, this is great, man. We got some yin and yang action. We got some combated. We're against each other here on some of the bets, so I'm excited to see how it plays out. Really quickly, we didn't get a ton of time to talk about college playoffs, but Michigan, TCU. Who do you got? Georgia, Ohio State. Really quick, who do you got?
Man, I would love to see Michigan, Ohio State rematch, one of the top rivalries in all of sports, but I have to go with Michigan and Georgia. They're just the most physical team, and they're just got better athletes all around on the field. What you got?
I got Georgia definitely taking care of business. I know Ohio State's trying to do what they can in the media and saying that, we're talented too. I think Georgia's just a different animal. I think they're just, obviously we know that Ohio State has their players on the exterior, the receivers and whatnot. They're skilled players, but Georgia's just too big up in in the line in the middle. I just think Georgia will roll. TCU, I'm gonna. You know what?
It's closer.
I'm gonna go TCU. I'm gonna go TCU. I'm gonna ride with my boy, my self-appointed just now boy, Duggan. He's gonna do some work. He's got the star power to take over a game like this.
He does. But don't sleep on McCarthy. Don't sleep on McCarthy now.
No, yeah, for sure. But I think TCU head coach, he went out and said that, hey, we're pretty much there's no surprise here. Michigan likes to run the damn ball. We're going to try to stop the ball. We know that's the same thing that Ohio State tried to do the other, when they played in the conference championship game. But we're going to run it back. They said we're going to run it back. We know McCarthy. He's shown that he could win the game, but we're basically going to say, prove it to us again. We're going to try to take away the run game and see what they can do. We know Corum's not playing, but they still can run their star identity. They're going to run the ball. So, but I got TCU upset Georgia. So
I like
Georgia
that.
and TCU.
TCU Cinderella story, unranked going to this season. A first-year head coach. Duggan, it's going to come back. It's going to come down to the quarterback play. Duggan, McCarthy, who's going to make the fewest mistakes, and it could be. I think that will be more competitive than the Georgia game. But
yes,
it's hard to say that against Ohio State. But we'll see, man. It's going to be a good week of football.
TCU preseason rankings or preseason playoff odds 200-1. Teams like Auburn, Nebraska that are not in it had better odds. They were like 150-1, 100-1, something like that.
They fired their coaches. Both of them fired their coaches, right?
So, that's an interesting little tidbit. Tonight we got my boys, and it should be a blowout. I just pray that I don't care how much they win by. I hope that they win. Obviously, just to stay healthy, just get past this game, so we can stay healthy tonight. Boys are playing the Titans, obviously.
Quick question. I have Pollard in my fantasy, my championship lineup. I just took him out. I put Garrett Wilson in. He's not playing, right? Garrett Wilson or Tony Pollard's not playing. I had him.
Tony Pollard's not playing. That's why everybody and their mom is put it pretty much on Zeke anytime touchdown. I think it's up to like minus 200.
Just want to double check that with my Cowboy source.
He's not playing. Everybody else should be pretty much full go. I like Michael Gallup props tonight. I think it's over. It's a chill game. Everybody stays healthy. I don't care. I don't give a damn about the spread. They can win by 1 point as long as they win. But excited. Thank you guys again for tuning in for another episode of the Average Joe Sports Podcast. Thank you guys for all your feedback on the new logo. We're going to get a new logo for our podcast. Get my boy in the mix. Continue to rock with us. And let's do it. Let's have a great Thursday night.